Hello. I'm going to start by showing you a picture of a journalist drinking champagne out of a bottle. And he says, this is the feeling I get when I manage to get rid of Roger Scruton from a government committee. And that committee was to do, by the way, with making the architectural environment better for the average person. And he was celebrating this. And what really got me was not the fact that he had managed to get this man sacked, but the fact that he was drinking champagne out of the neck of the bottle. Because it seemed to me to encapsulate absolutely everything. You see, champagne making is an art. It's a craft. It's something that requires an awful lot of experience and dedication. You don't drink champagne out of a bottle. You pay it some respect. Actually, I think one of the reasons for the so-called obesity epidemic we have now is that people don't have a respect for food or for the preparation of it, but that's another matter. Each craft has its own beauty, and champagne is a craft, and this guy was just glugging it from a bottle. Whether he was really glugging it or just pretending doesn't make any difference here. He was being ugly, and it showed his ugly soul. Hang on. There's something else I want to say, just a minute, while I'm on the subject. This is slightly off track, but ugliness is important in almost every aspect of our lives and very intrusive. And I spend a lot of time fulminating on this channel against ugliness. I may not refer to it as ugliness, but that's what it is. Islam is at the moment ugly. But it isn't the only thing that's ugly. The Catholic Church, which has been responsible for a lot of beauty, has also been responsible for an awful lot of ugliness. And when I see that ugliness, I will call it out. Somebody put a comment underneath one of my videos, I don't remember which one, said they'd unsubbed because they were with me until I had a go at the Catholic Church. Well, they're not going to be seeing this, but I want everyone else watching it to know that I will have a go at anything I see acting in an ugly way. And if it's the Catholic Church or the Protestant Church, the Church of England, the Episcopalians, the Jews, the Buddhists, if they're being ugly, then I will call them out if I see fit, if it's relevant at whatever point I'm making the video. And especially politicians being ugly. Anyone. So that's just my statement of intent there. Right, now, Notre Cathedral. Were Muslims responsible? It's just before Easter, a bit of a coincidence, and we all know that about 50 churches have been vandalised in France this year, so it appears to be part of a pattern. However, it doesn't really matter to me whether it was a Muslim responsible for this terrible thing. What really matters to me is not that there was one nutcase who might have done this, but that the destruction of all that beauty caused a firestorm of celebration on Muslim sites in France. That's what's the thing. Not the church, but the fact that so many Muslims were prepared to celebrate this. This is a place they hate. And being unable to build a beautiful society of their own, they will rejoice in the destruction of anything beautiful in another society. because that's what's going on, isn't it? And it goes on in the molestation of women as well, because it's generally accepted that female beauty is part of the joys of this world. A beautiful young woman is a work of art, provided that she has a reasonable soul as well, of course. And they don't like that. So they will throw acid at it. They will molest such a woman so that she has to hide her beauty. This is what's going on. It's a destruction of beauty. It's a rejoicing in the destruction of beauty. And I'm going back to that George Eaton Instagram photo. It's a disrespect for beauty. Roger Scruton was trying to help make the environment better for everyone by giving his opinions on what constitutes beautiful architecture, what makes the urban environment pleasant for people to be in. And George Eaton was an example of ugliness, the power of the ugly pygmy, mental pygmy, to bring down an intellectual giant. And he thought this was something worth drinking out of the bottle for. You know what? Even the left-wing press went into a sort of frozen silence about this because they realised how far that went. They knew there was something really wrong. And they realised that this man who works for, I don't agree with it, but it's a prestigious magazine, and he is somebody whose only power is to create ugliness, not only in that bottle drinking, but also in the fact that he got a man who could help, who could make things better for people. He got him sacked. And I noticed in the Spectator magazine, which is the right-wing one, the headline was, there was a headline, it said, it had Scruton's picture, and then it said, should I forgive the journalist who got me fired? I didn't read it, I don't know what he said, but I don't forgive him. Because he's just added to the ugliness of this world, not only in the image he put out, which he was so proud of, before suddenly everybody started telling him how wrong he was, and then he suddenly realised, he apologised. No, he didn't. He said the words. He didn't think the thoughts. I want to tell you about a pumping station. They brought water from the River Lee into London, and the technology of the times meant that they had to have pumping stations every so often to keep the water flowing. It was just machinery in there. But they didn't just build square brick blocks in the 19th century. Oh no, these pumping stations had to be something beautiful. This particular one looks like a medieval castle. I wonder how many young people, children and teenagers who passed that every day on their way to school or on the bus going into town or whatever, they saw this medieval castle in the middle of suburban London, and it fired their imagination. It made them think of beautiful maidens and dragons and knights and chivalric tales and all sorts of magical fantasy things. I'll try and find a photo of it and I'll put it up here. Better than that bloody champagne glugging arse. And that was beauty. It had no function. It was a pumping station. A tent over it would have been just as good, but no, it had to look like something magical. A bit further out in Tottenham, there's another pumping station which looks like an 18th century manor. Very nice in a classical architectural style. But not like that castle, I have to admit. Anyway, because the 19th century architects and town planners despite the fact that the world was filled with ugliness at the time, they wanted to do their part to make things beautiful. And that castle is still there, even though the pumping station is now no longer in operation because modern technology has overtaken it. Anyway, I wanted to quote a poem to you. I'm sorry that it didn't... where's it gone? Oh dear. Oh, here we are. I know I had it on one of the web pages. Nobody mentioned this poem, and this is something that struck me as well, because the whole discussion Scruton was having about beauty, and nobody talked about Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn. And I suppose that's because a lot of people don't know the poem anymore. And it is worth checking out. I'm going to read you the last verse. And before I do, I just want to explain one or two things. First of all, he uses a few words which aren't that known in modern parlance, so I'll just define them to you. Attic. Attic refers not to the top of a house, but to anything to do with Athens. And when he says, oh, Attic shape, he's talking about the shape of a Greek urn. He uses the word breed. A breed refers to anything that's sort of intertwined and plaited and sort of worked in. And then he uses the expression cold pastoral. Now that's good. Pastoral is anything to do with the country, the countryside, and the figures on this urn, which he saw. I mean, it did exist. It showed some peasants and a religious procession, and cold in the sense that it's frozen in time. Okay, so let's just read this little bit of Ode on a Grecian Urn, because it says something about the eternity of beauty. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou, silent form, dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. Cold pastoral, when old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man. A friend to man, that is, looking at it elevates us, even though the artist and the pictures it depicts, they're all long gone. It gives us a sense of continuity, a sense of the age of our civilization, and a sense of beauty. A friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, and if you wish to donate, click the subscribe star link where you can make a one-off payment or set up a regular contribution, or I have a PayPal account at grannyopteryx@gmail.com. Till next time.